button. Next slide, please. So why are we here? So we are going to welcome you to the People Powered Places delivery phase. So we are now entering the delivery phase. Well, we're actually in the announcement phase, so you should have all received your letters now saying congratulations. Guide you through the initial steps on how to get started. Introduce you to Compost London, who will support some of you throughout next year, and answer the questions to make sure you feel confident to get started. Next slide, please. Just a quick summary of what we're going to be doing this evening. So we're just going through the welcoming and housekeeping now. Councillor Charlene McLean will be speaking very soon. We'll be just talking you through some of the onboarding and some of the things you need to do to get started with People Powered Places around 6:15, and then Caroline will come in around 6:35 to talk about Compost London and how some of you will be using their services. We'll start the questioning around 7 o'clock, and then just go through some next steps around 7:25 to hopefully close around 7:30. So I think the next slide is introduction to Councillor Charlene McLean, who's a Cabinet Member for Resident Engagement and Resident Experience. Councillor Charlene, over to you.
Hello, good evening, everybody. It's so lovely to see so many happy, smiley faces here from these people whose projects were successful within this process. Congratulations. It was hotly contested. There was lots of votes, and I'm really, really excited to see what you're going to deliver. It's unfortunate that not everybody could receive funding in this program. We had a lot of applications. There's some disappointed people, which is a shame. But it's just, yeah, it's really important and quite a groundbreaking program that we're doing here in Newham, and I'm glad that you're all part of it. So that's just enough for me. I won't say too much, but congratulations once again, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how you spend the money that you received from this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm just going to hand over to Emily now, who's just going to talk you through some of the details about the votes.
Thank you. So yeah, first of all, we wanted to kind of come back on the results of the votes, which you would have received through a letter, because first of all, congratulations for being one of the successful projects. You've made it so far in the process. As a reminder, we launched back in April. You got together in May to set your local priorities. You started thinking about solutions in July. You completed your application this summer, and then you were successfully shortlisted by the working group members, who are residents in your community as well. And then you finally got enough of the public votes to be successful through the Big Vote participatory budgeting process. So well done. We had an absolutely overwhelming response in terms of applications this year. So we had 366 applications, which is amazing. We had just so many project ideas in the communities. We had a budget of £1.7 million, which was able to accommodate 119 top voted projects across the borough, and you are one of them. So you should all be proud of yourselves for being one of the most popular projects Newham residents have chosen to see come to life. And now you have until December 2024 to make it all happen. We will guide you through that tonight. So a little recap of the Big Vote. So a total of 324 projects were shortlisted by working groups to be put forward to the vote. 2 of them were withdrawn during the voting phase. We had over 10,000 residents taking part in the Big Vote, both voting online through our Newham Co-Create online platform and with paper votes in the local libraries as well. So a huge amount of residents that took part as well. So well done, all of you, kind of like have been spreading the word, advertising your project idea with your neighbors and your community. So this is again an overwhelming response as well in terms of the big vote. We had organized as well 3 in-person events where you had stalls as well, where you could advertise your projects, and we had around 2,000 residents attending those 3 events. So again, a really, really amazing response from the community there. So a bit of a summary of how the voting worked, because I know some of you might have questions around that. So anyone who lived, worked, or learned in the community neighborhood could take part in voting either online or in paper, and they had 10 projects that they could vote for. After the vote closed, the postcodes and the names were checked to remove duplicates and make sure that the votes were correctly cast in the community neighborhood as well. So after this due diligence process was completed, the projects were ranked according to the total votes that they received, both online through Newham Co-Create platform and in paper voting. And once all those votes were added up and everything was, all those due diligence steps were completed, then the projects with the most votes were offered a grant up until the total value of the funds were available per community neighborhood was reached. So that means you're one of the 119 projects which had received enough votes to make it through and receive a grant for the funding. So what happens now? So we're just going to go through a little bit of the steps to get you started. As you know, in order to get started, you need to do a little bit of paperwork, which is maybe not the most fun part, but it is the most important to get you started so that you can start in January to deliver your projects and to have a 1-year delivery as well. So we're just going to take you through some steps and kind of like trying to also talk through the grant agreement so that you fully understand as well what you're signing, and that it's kind of digestible as well for you. And then we'll have a Q&A session, obviously, if you have any more questions afterwards. So in the email that you received from the community neighborhood teams, we've let you know about the outcomes, and you have received 2 really important documents. The first document that you received is your letter. So there's some important information in the letter about how the grant works and what you can spend the funding on. So please make sure that you do read the letter fully, and not just the bit about congratulations. So just make sure that you have read the letter fully as well in order to fully understand how the grant works. And then the second really important document that you would have been sent is the grant agreement. So the grant agreement, in simple terms, is the agreement between you and the council on the terms and conditions that are associated with your grant. It's a really important document because it explains the terms and conditions in detail, and you will also need to be obviously familiarize yourself with what to expect during this year of project delivery. So we will highlight the main points in this session about what the grant agreement contains so that we make it kind of easier for you. But we strongly recommend that you do read the grant agreement in full before you sign it as well. Okay, so what is inside the grant agreement? First of all is the payment schedule, which I'm sure you will all be interested in finding out about. So on page 1 of your grant agreement, you will see the payment schedule, which is as follows. So you'll see the table here. So the grant will be allocated in 3 installments, and you will need to provide receipts of all the spends and, receipts and invoices of all your spends, as well as monitoring forms and an evaluation form at the end as well. So first of all, in January, if you have everything ready in January, then you will receive the first payment, which is 50% of the grant. You will need to provide the bank details in order to be sent the money if you have a bank treasurer's account. If not, then we'll talk about that in a minute. You will need to have the signed grant agreement and all the additional conditions as well, which we'll talk about in a minute as well. then you will receive 25% of the grant after the first 50%. The second installment is 25%. So you will only receive it once you've submitted the monitoring form 1 with all the receipts and all the invoices from the 50% of your spend once you've spent that. So it's really important that you do fill those in. And then you will receive the final 25% once you have filled out the second monitoring form after you spent the second installment. And then once you've received all your installments and you've carried out your project and you've delivered your project, so you won't receive any further payment, but you will need to submit as well an evaluation form. And again, this is a really important part of the process in order that for us to know that you've delivered your project. So monitoring forms and evaluation form, it's really important that we know what you spend the grant on and that it reflects what you put in your application form. And the reason for that is obviously because local residents have voted for your project ideas. So you need to deliver what residents have voted for. So that's why monitoring and evaluation form are an essential part of this process, especially as well, because this is public money. So where to find this form? So you will find the form in the annex of the grant agreement. So if you scroll down to the bottom of the grant agreement, that's where you will find them. Monitoring form 1, as I said, needs to be completed once you have finished spending the first installment. Then you will have monitoring form 2 after you have spent the second installment, and the evaluation form at the end as well. The evaluation form is how you tell us what you did with the grant, and it is mandatory like the rest of the forms as well. So how to use the forms? There will be specific project clinics throughout next year to support you, and the community neighborhood team in your area as well is here to help you. But what's really important is that you do detail your spends in the monitoring forms and that you have receipts and invoices that match your spends, which is the most important part about how we track your spending of the grant as well. And then it's also really important that you give details about the number of participants that you've impacted, and also all the details that you will find in those forms as well, and what you have been doing basically in your project. So how else do we monitor your project? So obviously, you know, the rest of the residents will also be really interested in what you're doing. They really want to know that the projects that they've voted for are kind of having an impact in the community. So we also have monitoring visits that will be taking place either by working group members, which are local residents who will be in touch with you. I'm sure you might have made them before as well, and council officers, so the community neighborhood teams as well will be making monitoring visits to make sure that everything is happening as you're planning, and also offer some support if you have any risks or anything happening. Okay, now talking about the timeline. So in your grant agreement, it also indicates the timeline for the delivery of your project. So you have until the 31st of December 2024 to complete your project, which is 1 year from January. So you will need to complete all the steps that we are covering today before you can get started. So it's really important that you do complete the steps. And in some cases, you might need some permissions before you kind of get started as well. So this might take time, especially with permissions. So if that's your case, we strongly recommend that you start seeking permissions now as well as part of your grant agreement. What if you experience delays? So we really hope that you won't. This is obviously the clinic where we're really positive about the announcement, but it's really important that we say it straight away as well. So if you are experiencing delay, it's important that you tell us immediately. So contact your community neighborhood team, and they will be able to they will do their best to support you to find the best way forward, depending on your case and depending what the issue is as well. So that's part of your grant agreement as well. All those kind of like conditions about what happens if you experience delays as well. So in your grant agreement as well, on page 3, you will find a list of additional conditions. So what the additional conditions are is the documents that you will need to send in addition to your grant agreements to make sure that you're ready to start delivering your project. So not all the documents are applicable to all the projects, and it will depend from one project to another. So you will have been sent a personalized version of your grant agreement with a list of conditions that apply to you. The first one is a project plan. So in your application form, you will have already kind of like have had a project plan with like your timeline and what you hope to achieve. Just make sure that you kind of either send that again or a kind of updated version of that to your community neighborhood team so that they're aware of what you're planning to do up until 31st of December 2024. If your organization has a Treasurer's Bank account, then that's fine. If you don't, then you will need a third-party banker. So if you're an individual resident, especially as a council, we can't give money to individual residents. So you will have to go through an external organization, which is our partner, Compost London. And Caroline is here with us tonight as well. So she will explain the process in a bit more detail. But what is important to know is that you will have to sign a consent form for us to be able to share your details as well with Caroline. And we will be sending that as well in the next few weeks as well to you so that you can complete it and return it to us as well as part of your grant agreement, if that's your case. Meaningful consultation. So most of you would have already carried out consultation before doing your application form. We have held a project clinic last year as well. Sorry, not last year. This summer, we have carried out a project clinic on consultation. So if you need some help to do further consultation, you can refer to that as well. But it's obviously really important. We have stressed how important it was as well in that project clinic that we held in the summer, in terms of like making sure that your neighbors and people around you are on board with your projects before you get started. And this is to avoid any kind of complaints around your project or any kind of conflict that may arise from your project as well. So really important part again as well. Permission. So if you are planning to use the land that you do not own, so obviously if you're just kind of carrying out a project in your own or in library or anything like that, then you fine. But if you are, for example, planning to do anything in a park or somewhere else, then you will need permission either from the council or from another organization. So if that's your case, make sure that you get in touch with the community neighborhood team as well to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And you will need to kind of include those permissions as part of your grant agreement as well. So that's a crucial part as well again, and I'm sure most of you would have been in touch with your team about that anyway. But please do get started as soon as possible if that's your case. Then we have the maintenance agreement. So that's if you are doing an infrastructure project, which will be kind of in the public space and be there for a while. So for example, we had planters in previous years that were funded. So we need to make sure that someone keeps maintaining those planters so that, you know, it doesn't dry out. And then after the year of delivery, it just won't have the same impact. So if that's your case, and if you deliver an infrastructure project, it's essential that you also sign the maintenance agreement where you will be asked to maintain your infrastructure project in the future as well. Now, if you are going to deliver your project with another organization or another party, then you will also need a partnership agreement. This might not be the case for most of you, but if that's your case as well, then we need to have a partnership agreement to make sure that we know the responsibilities as well. If you are going to do anything with a lease, so if you are going to do like any sessions or any project in some premises that where you would need a lease, then it's the same. We will need a copy of the lease as well. So if that's your case, then you would be made aware. Public liability certificate, again, this would be in your grant agreement if that's your case, and it won't be included if it's not your case. And then safeguarding is a really, really important one. So if you are planning to do anything with children or vulnerable adults, you will need a safeguarding policy, and you would need safeguarding training and DBS checks as well. So this is obviously essential and really critical to safeguard children and vulnerable adults in Newnham and anywhere really. So Caroline will go into a bit more detail about that as well, and she's also able to support with that. But it's really, yeah, that's just the basic of what you need to include as well. And then the risk assessment. So I don't know if everyone here is familiar with what a risk assessment is, but again, Caroline will also cover that in a minute. You will need to kind of make sure that you've considered what risks might arise from your project, especially if you're doing, for example, an event somewhere. Have you made sure that everything is in place for the project to be delivered safely? So these are all the things that you kind of need to think about before we get started. It's all really important steps, but again, we are also here to support you with the steps. Okay, and then covering a little bit more of other information. So like I said, there's a lot on your grant agreement. Do read it fully so that you're aware of everything that comes with it. But here are some of the other important information. So in terms of marketing and publicity, we ask you to acknowledge Newnham Council as the funder of your project wherever appropriate and practical. So you will be sent our logo and the People Power Places logo as well, so that you can acknowledge the grant award. In terms of announcement, we are planning to announce the results on Newnham Co-Create as well and have a press release, so maybe hold off a little bit until the end of the week. But after that, you are most welcome to use your social media as well to acknowledge the grant that you have received and throughout the year as well. So we also ask you, if you use social media, to use the People Power Places hashtag and to link to Newnham London Twitter account and Instagram accounts as well. In terms of sharing your progress, so you will be asked to share your progress with the community as well, to let them know about what you're doing and how it's going, because they will be interested in knowing what's happening with the projects that they voted for. So that's also a really important part of the accountability process and making sure that great stuff is happening in the community with the 1.6 million. So there's two ways of doing this. The first one is on Newnham Co-Create. So Newnham Co-Create is our platform where we share everything with residents. So you have access to your own project folder, project page, so you can upload pictures and updates on there. And it's really great for residents to see what you're doing, what you've done. So if you can update it as regularly as possible, then that would be amazing. And again, if you need support to kind of understand how to do that, then you can get in touch with the community neighborhood team as well. And the second way of doing that is through People Power Places events. So the next one will be in the summer 2024, and we'll ask you to kind of give an update as well in person to other people. Bit of financial processes, which is the VAT. So it's important that you follow the correct process for VAT as well. So just make sure that you refer to the pages 12 and 13 of the grant agreement and the section 8 to make sure that you do the correct thing when it comes to VAT. If you're an organization and if you're a resident, then that doesn't apply to you at all. In terms of the assets and goods, so again, this is a bit of jargon, but really it's about what you are buying with your grant. So just make sure that you know and you're aware as well of what you can buy and what you can't buy with your grant. And obviously you can't make any profit out of the grant, because this is a non-profit, community-based. And then finally, not fun, and hopefully no one gets to that stage, obviously, but we have to say it. So if you fail to observe the terms and conditions, then we also reserve the right to withdraw part of or full of the grant and to stop future payments as well. And this is just as part of the process, is to make sure that everything is done properly. So I hope that was, you know, I hope this information was digestible, but there will be time for questions as well. So this is kind of in a nutshell what is contained within your grant agreement. And that's the first step to kind of fully understand that. The second step, once you're ready, you familiarize yourself with the grant agreement, then you can complete it and return it. So all you need to do is sign page 4 of the grant agreement, and you can return the whole document to your community neighborhood team, keeping a copy as well for your own records, just in case. So you should do this within 2 weeks of receiving the grant agreement as well. And then you can send the additional documents in a follow-up email after the 2 weeks, because obviously this might take more time, and we are coming to a busy period of time for this year. So yeah, if you have any further questions on the grant agreement before you sign it, obviously get in touch with your community neighborhood team as well again. But yeah, that's the second step, is accepting the offer, and then you're a step further in the process. And I will hand over to Chris to cover the supplier list.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, there's a lot to digest there. But it is an important part of your starting, process, which is the grant agreement. So do, yeah, like Emily mentioned, do read it in full, please, and just follow the instructions from your neighborhood teams. So this particular step is going to be for the voluntary community and faith organisations who are new to this process and are not on the council's supplier list. So we're going to need you to register. If you're not on that list, we're going to need you to register and enter your bank details so that the council can pay your grant directly into your treasurer's account. All others will receive the grant through our partner organisation, Compost London, unless you have opted for an alternate organisation. Caroline from Compost will talk you through the process in a few minutes, so we'll introduce Caroline in a bit. There is a guide on the NEWOM website, which the link is there. I'm not sure if Emily if you can pop that in the chat for people, that'd be useful. Not sure if you're able to copy that into the chat, that link. That'd be great. But yeah, that is the guide on the NEWOM website if you need to join us as a supplier. So there's a 2-stage process. Stage 1, you go in and you register as a potential supplier, and then the second stage is when it asks you to enter your bank details and then upload a company headed letter confirming the bank details signed by the director of your organization. Next page, please. So just to kind of give you a heads up on what to expect, your neighbour team will be in touch to get the process started with you in terms of joining us as a supplier. You do need to keep an eye on your emails as often as you can when you are going through this particular process, because there's quite a bit of back and forth. The council's finance team need to carry out some due diligence as well before approving you as a supplier, and this could take a bit of time. So our teams are busy, and there may be many of you registering at the same time, so we might be asking for your patience during this process. There's a lot of you new faces in the organizations this time around, so there may be a number of you applying to be suppliers now. There could also be additional questions that the finance team might ask as well. So again, we'll come back to you with any further requests that they make. Once you've successfully registered, the neighbourhood teams then can create purchase orders to start releasing payments to you, and then also this could take a few days to reach your accounts as well. So just to summarize those points, there's lots of processes that need to happen. before you actually receive your first installment. So do be patient with us. Do keep an eye on your emails for any actions that you might need to take as well. And for those of you that this all looks familiar and already joined, well, you don't need to do anything, I guess. You're already on our system. So we can get the process started a bit sooner for you as well. And then unless your organization has changed or you applied under a different organization, yeah. So obviously if you've completely changed the name of your organization or how you operate, then we'll do need to change your details as well. So do let us know if that has happened as well. Thank you. I think Emily's picking this up again on the next slide.
Thank you, Chris. If you don't mind putting the link, because I can't do that whilst I'm sharing.
Sure. Okay, that's fine. I'll find it.
Just also because there was a question on it, and supplier, I guess, is a bit of jargon as well. But basically, it means that you're on the list of the bank accounts that the council can transfer money to. So that's why. Okay, so once you've completed, return your grant agreement. And once you've kind of sent all your additional documents as well, so the community neighborhood team will look into it. They will read everything, might ask you further questions or further documents depending on your situation. Once they approve all your documents and consider that you can get started and that you are set up on the supplier list as well, then you're good to go and you can get started. So how does that work? So we will release the first 50% payment to you or to Compost if you are with Compost, which again we'll come back to in a minute for those of you who need their money to go through Compost. It might take some time for the first payment to reach you, as Chris mentioned, but as soon as you receive it, you can start spending the grant as well. And you also must start spending it within 1 month of receiving the first payment as well. So that, again, we're not experiencing delays for the down the line as well. And then from January, we'll also deliver a regular program of project clinics throughout the year to support you with the key milestones of project delivery and making sure that you're supported every step of the way, which is again part of the evaluation of the program last year for those who were already there, and for the new people. Then yeah, we'll be kind of here to support you throughout the delivery of your project as well. So it might be things like project management, or it might be things like, how do I document my project? How do I make sure that I take nice photos and videos, and or things like, how do I make my project sustainable in the future? So lots of things to kind of look forward to as well in the new year. And then, like I mentioned as well, the next People Power Places event will be in the summer. So lots of scope to do something really exciting and showcase all the progress that you've made in the first 6 months of your project. So until then, we will wish you lots of good luck. But before we go into the questions, I want to introduce you to Caroline from Compost. And also just to say that I know this is a lot of the paperwork at the beginning, but I think this is essential to kind of get started on your amazing ideas and get as soon as possible on the ground doing the stuff that you want to do. So yeah, over to you, Caroline. But you are on mute.
So can we have the next slide, please? So no, not that one, the one before. So congratulations. And the question is, now what? Well, you've been bombarded with now what? And I'm going to tell you a little bit more. But there are a lot of people in this room that I know really, really well, and probably know more about running projects than I do, because they've been doing it longer and bigger projects and more grassroots projects than anything I've done. So what I'm going to run through now is a little bit about some ideas about how you can get your project started practically correctly so that it makes it easier for you. Then I'm going to do a little bit about what happens if compost is holding the money for you, because there are slightly different rules around resident projects than voluntary and community sector projects. And then I'll do a little bit more about how compost can help you. So if you've been running projects forever and ever, and you've got an organisation behind you with your own bank account and everything, you're welcome to stay and listen, or you can go and make a cup of tea, really, because I don't want you to sort of think, oh, I know all this, how boring. Not everybody does, so we're just going to go through all the basics for you, and we'll go through those, and hopefully everybody will be starting on an even keel then. Can we have the next slide? So now what? All of a sudden, somebody's giving you money and saying, well, that was a really good idea, get going. And these ideas in the orange boxes are drawn from things that people have either fallen over on or found really useful, or didn't know about and wished they had sooner. So one of the really good ways is if you're a resident and you've put that bid in, and there's only one or two of you, or two or three, or there might have been half a dozen, and now you've actually got it. There's a lot of people giving you a lot of reasons why they can't be as involved as they were. So think about setting up a steering group, getting some people together that you can spread the load with, and in your steering group have an agreed set of rules and behaviours so that you don't arrive thinking someone else is going to do something, or something else is going to happen from some other part of the steering group. So just think about taking a little bit of time to set up a steering group, or finding a few more people to spread that load and work out, sit down together and work out how you're going to work, who's going to do what bit. Because one of the things you have to do is find somebody to be a link with the money, maybe somebody to do marketing, maybe somebody to engage volunteers and support them. If your project needs volunteers, you can sign up to our Newham Volunteers. The link is horrible with blue and green. It was yellow and green before I sent it, but I think in the ether on its journey to the council, it changed colours. When you get these, it is a hyperlink. You will be able to link onto the council, our Newham Volunteers site. And what you do is you put in what your project is, you sign up, and then you can have a site, and they will help you match volunteers there. You can also find volunteers from within your community. But there's lots of hints on the Our Newham Volunteers about how to sort of make sure they're on board, how to support them, what you can expect from your volunteers. So Amelie already mentioned about keeping people safe on your projects. So there's a number of policies and procedures that will help you with that, because we don't want you to harm yourselves, or anybody taking part in your project to harm themselves or put themselves in danger, or have problems with safeguarding. And all of those policies that I've outlined there cover everybody. It's not only the people that are actually delivering the project, it's the people that might come along and be part of the project, and it's people that have an vested interest in the project. So you might want to think about health and safety. If you're going to be using tools, do you need to do some sort of induction so that somebody doesn't pick the saw up by the saw bit instead of the handle? Safeguarding we've already covered, and Compost will be delivering training for groups on how to write safeguarding policies and implement them. And the council delivers training on safeguarding awareness so that you know what you might need to sort of keep an eye open for. We'll also deliver some training on risk assessments. As I said, our Newham Volunteers can help with volunteer policy. And it's always a good idea, if you're using a lot of people, on your project to have some sort of code of conduct so they all understand what is expected of them. Use the Social Welfare Alliance training program. They're little bite-sized trainings. They're all free and they cover a whole range of things. Simple health and safety awareness, talking to people, getting to an evening. Have a look. That's another hyperlink that will take you to their program. And like I say, they're all online and they're all little bite-sized training sessions and they're free. And the money. You need to know what money you have and how much you're going to receive at each stage. Make sure one person is responsible for this, then it won't get lost. It won't get sort of, well, I thought you were doing this, but I've done that. Oh dear, we've overspent or we've not spent enough. And if you've forgotten something, because a lot of people are doing this for the first time, and you might now look at your budget and start doing something and think, oh, we didn't order the book with the wheelbarrows. Go and talk to your manager and see if there's a way around it, how you can rejig your budget. And if that doesn't work, you can come and see us and we'll see if there's another fund available that might top up what you've got. Can you go on to the next slide, please? So we are an organisation that just supports people, individuals and organisations in what they're doing. So we have a newsletter and a notice board that you can sign up for. We'll do one-to-one meetings with you online or face-to-face just to help you think through ideas, challenges, things that are worrying you. If you have a project idea, we can help you look for funding opportunities. We can help you with how to write an application and then look at your application before you send it in. We run training sessions and workshops on policies and procedures and budgeting, and we can always put you in touch with similar projects. Now go on to the next slide, please. So I think you may have an out-of-date presentation, but we'll carry on with it and see how we go. So we are running our safeguarding policy writing and implementing sessions in in January. On the 29th is writing, and then how it's implemented is on the 26th. Looking at the audience, a number of you have already attended that, and hopefully you found it helpful. We'll also be doing in this first term how to write a risk assessment, and we'll also be running a funders fair where you can come and meet other funders. You can sign up for our newsletter and notice board, and you can book a mentoring session by emailing us or phoning us on those numbers. And all those hyperlinks should work when you get the slides. So can I have the next slide, please? Oh, right. So the ones that we were missing, would you like me to talk through them?
I might, if you give me just 2 minutes, I will try and find it for you, because I think it's important information as well. But yeah, you can start talking about the process whilst I'm looking for that.
So in a similar way in which Amelie went through your paperwork that you had, if you aren't a recognised organisation and don't have a bank account in the name of your organisation that is a treasurer's account or a community account or one that is set up for organisations, you will have been asked if you could either ask for another organisation to hold that money for you, or Compost will be holding it for you. So there's a few differences in the way that people that we're holding the money for work. So we'll just run through and run those. The first thing that is absolutely important is sign all your paperwork, read through it all, sign it, and that starts the whole process going. So nothing happens until you've signed that paperwork. Once that's done, the first instalment of your money will be sent to compost. So we get the first 50%. And once that first 50% is with compost, you can start spending it against the budget on your application. We won't receive your second instalment or your third instalment until you've submitted your monitoring to your community neighbourhood. And they've said, yes, we've got the monitoring and the project is on track and it's all working well. We will now release the second instalment or the third instalment. You can't get 50% funding straight away like the other projects. We can only send out money that we have bills and receipts for. But there are a number of ways that we try and make that as easy as possible for you. So you need to nominate a named person to work with compost, because I then know if I've got any questions or queries who I can go back to, rather than a lot of names. I just sort of think, oh, I wonder what project they're from. So when you want to release the money from compost, you need to send me your receipts and your bills, because I get audited as well. And so I have to account for where the money went, which project had it, and what was it for against your project plan. And you need to keep all those copies of those bills and receipts, because you will need them for your monitoring claim. But if there's any problem, talk to me. Just send me an email or something and we can work through, and we'll find a fix that will hopefully work for both of us. Can you go on to the next slide? So how you actually get the money. There are a number of ways that you can get the money, and it will all be detailed in your grant recipients form. There'll be a page on it on how you can do it. So you can ask compost to order goods on your behalf. So people will often send me a list of where they would like goods bought from. So it might be John Lewis, it might be Amazon, it might be Screwfix or whatever. And you can send me a list of what you want, and I will order them for you and have them delivered to your project. So you need to tell me what you want, when you want it delivered, and anything else about sort of, does it need to go behind the wheelie bins in the front garden or something. So we can do that. We can order goods on your behalf. If you want to order the goods, you can get a pro forma invoice requesting the amount of money. And that's something that shows how much you want and what you want it for. And some people will just send me a list from Amazon before they've clicked the order button. And I will make sure that that money is transferred to whoever's going to do the buying. Or you can, if it's fairly large equipment, a lot of organisations will just issue a pro forma invoice, and then I know how much I need to make payable to you and what for. If you need cash, that would need to be ordered in advance. So you need to give me a little bit of notice for that, because we need to get the cash. And you will have to come and collect that from our office in East Ham. It's not always a good idea to have cash. The only reason we really give out cash is if you're reimbursing volunteers for out-of-pocket expenses. But what a lot of projects have done in the past is they've gone down the road of there's a Tesco's on the corner, or there's a Morrison's or a Sainsbury's or whatever. We will buy cards, and you can have a £5 gift card, and that's your lunch because you're here all day, or that will cover your day sort of volunteer expenses. But if there isn't any way around it and you need cash, we can manage that. We just need a little bit of notice to get it. The other way is if you've spent the money and you need reimbursing, send me a copy of your bills and all the bank account details of who it needs to be paid to. They need to be absolutely accurate. I put them into our bank account and it takes them a day to set you up as a customer on our one working day. So if you send it to me Friday evening, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. I don't think they have so many people around at the weekend. And they do the money laundering. And if it's not absolutely perfect details, they will throw it out. So if your bank account is just your initials and your surname, that's what you need to tell me. If it's Miss so-and-so or Mr. so-and-so, you need to tell me that on your bank account because it will chuck it out. If you use your initials, but they aren't what you usually sign your name as, you need to give me the exact details or else I can't get that set up. Generally, we do a bank run every 2 weeks, but if this doesn't fit in with your project, talk to us and we'll see if we can sort something out with that. So over the past couple of years, we've done all sorts of things to try and make it better for people so that we're not hindering you. We're trying to help you run your project as smoothly as possible. So I think that's all I've got to say. Good luck, and I'll look forward to getting to know some of you. Yeah, good luck with your projects.
Thank you, Caroline. Okay, I will just take up our slides again.
Thank you, Caroline.
Yeah.
Okay, so sharing screen now. There we go. So for those of you who are from the Beckton Royal Docks and Custom House and Canning Town community neighbourhood areas, you would have been aware that an extra £80,000 funding was available from the Royal Docks team. So the Royal Docks team support the People Power Places Fund with that extra additional funding. So they couldn't make it today to the session, but they're really keen, obviously, to get in touch with the successful projects and to support you with your project lifecycle alongside the community neighbourhood team as well. So the Royal Docks team work across three key priorities: place, economy, and culture. And yeah, they're really excited about all the projects that have been funded in those two community neighbourhood areas as well. And they've asked us to share some of the details as well if you want to sign up to their newsletter to continue to be aware of what they're doing as well in the community neighbourhood. And then Rona is part of the community's team, has shared her email address as well, which we'll be putting in the chat as well. Okay, so that is all for us now. So we'll come into the Q&A session. Just to remind you as well, so we've got about 25 minutes, just under 25 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, because we need to talk about the next steps as well. So just roughly 20 minutes for questions. Just to remind you that obviously if it's specific to your case, we might take it separately. Yeah, that's it.
Dean, straight in there. First question, Dean.
Yes. Do you have a template for the project plan and the risk assessment? Because there's 1,001 different ways of doing project plans, especially for the people who are new to this process. Is there a template or a particular project methodology you recommend?
Yeah, we can get one over to whoever needs it. I can get one over to the neighbourhood team. So if anyone needs one, we can send that over through the neighbourhood teams. We've also got a template for risk assessment as well, I believe.
That's right. We always use the Newham Council risk assessment template for our project, but not everyone's aware of that. So if
no, that's fine.
If that could be shared, it'd be really helpful for people who are not so familiar with risk assessment.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. Thanks, Dean. Yeah, that's a good point. Suze? Hi, Suze.
Hi, sorry, that bit of a brain fart there with the old tech. So 2 statements that I don't need an answer. First one, just to give a heads up to my lovely community neighborhood team, and it might apply to others, that I'm going to be requesting a Word version of the grant agreement, because I imagine others like me don't have access to a printer or a scanner, so I can't return it any other way, but I do have an electronic signature, so we can do that. And that might apply to other community neighborhood managers. The second statement that doesn't require an answer is that if you're going to be asking us to do social media with hashtags and tagging in, then I'm hoping that Newham are going to interact back with those posts, because I did that in the last 2 rounds of community neighborhood as an individual and got nothing back from them, so a bit of a waste of time. 2 really, really quick questions, and I'll ask them now and then you can just answer both. 1, what is the registration form listed on my one of the documents that I received, which was the detail of information applicant needs to bring? And the second question is, additional documents after the grant agreement are due after 2 weeks, which I think is 29th of December. Is it possible for risk assessments to be submitted before the before when we want the money related to those workshops? So we'd planned and said in our project plan that we would spend February and March planning our workshops in more detail, and it's obviously in general better to have risk assessments closer to the time of when the workshop is going to happen, so you've got more up-to-date information. Bashing out generic ones now I don't think is going to be useful in general.
Yeah, it sounds like it's quite specific to some of the stuff you're doing, and I agree. Yeah, some risk assessments do need to be done just before events and workshops as well. So it's a case by case basis. Some could do it now, and like you said, Suze, some need to be done just before. So what was your second question apart from risk assessment?
What is the registration form?
The registration form.
Yeah,
Okay.
so on, where is it? On the detail of information applicants need to submit, under required mandatory documents, I've got the various things that we've all heard: safeguarding documents, DBS, blah, blah, blah. And then down at the bottom, I've got schedule of sessions or work, registration form, utility bills can't be paid through this grant.
I'll answer that one. So is this just a registration form you normally use? If you could have just a copy of that, the
For what
sign-in
though?
sheet or
If
people
sign-in
are
sheet,
registering
okay.
the session, and so that you can keep a copy of the stats and everything else. Thank you.
Okay,
Oh.
thank you.
And for grant agreement, if anybody wants to come into Forest Gate Library or Stratford Library, we'll print these for you. And you can sign it on there, and we'll need the complete grant agreement. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Joyty. Yeah, we do need the full grant agreement back. So that's including all of the terms and conditions with your signature at the end, not just a signed section.
Just to follow up as well on the communications and social media. So we are part of the sort of like comms plan this year is to highlight even more the successful projects as well, and all the stuff that is happening. So there will definitely be more going on that, but we don't always have capacity. The comms team in Newham is a small team, so they don't always have capacity to repost all of your projects, either just to manage expectations as well when we talk about adding Newham London on your social media posts. But it will definitely be part of what we're doing more of next year.
Katie,
Hello, can you see me? Because I think my camera's not working.
we can't.
No, I don't know what's going
yeah,
on. Anyway, okay, I will
that's okay.
I'll remain in darkness. I've got quite a few questions. Sorry, I'll try and be brief, but we're in the process of, we're a very small community organisation. We're in the process of setting up a bank account. So we haven't got our bank details yet. And I just wonder what happens in that instance. Like, is it okay to, I'm hoping in the very early new year that'll be sorted. We're just sort of in the middle of the process at the moment. So what's the best thing to do in that instance? With Compost London as well, do they have to be taking your money for you to access some of their support? Because I think we could really benefit from some of their mentoring probably. But we do have our own kind of, well, we should have our own bank account. The other question I had is just around the conditions of the grant agreement. Is there someone at the council? I've got a lot of really specific questions about our project, and I just wonder, is there someone at the council who's the best person to be in touch with about that? And just to reiterate, I think one of the previous questions, it feels like there are some things that it feels a bit chicken and egg, like we're being asked to get things in place before funds can be released, but we may need some money to get things in place in order to get those things in place, because one of the things is the design of what we're doing, and we might need to have a design created, which obviously comes at a cost. So yeah, what do we do in that?
Okay, I mean, yeah, again, so they're quite specific to your individual project. So this is where we ask you if you can just have a discussion with your neighbourhood teams on the best way forward. I think with the suppliers, you can, yeah, if you're going to get your bank account in January, there's no harm in starting the registration process. I think that you can start stage 1 of the registration process. I think it's only in stage 2 that we start going into adding your bank account details. So the process can be started. It's only 2 or 3 weeks now till January, so it's not long to go anyway. So there's no harm in starting now. What was the other? You mentioned a few
so
things.
you asked about, is there someone specific in the council? Oh, sorry, yeah, council. Yeah, sorry, compost as well.
Yes, you can access all our services free of charge. Just use the link on the slides. Say you want to come and talk to us about something, and we'll set up a one-to-one mentoring service. Or if you sign up for our newsletter, you'll hear about all our trainings and everything, and they're all free for people in Newham.
Thanks, Caroline. Yeah, in terms of the terms and conditions on your grant agreement, your first line of contact is your neighbourhood team. If there's any specific items on there, then we could seek advice from other colleagues in the department. But again, it's case by case on what exactly you need to help you with that.
Okay, thank you. And just a final question. We need Newham to help us deliver the project because it's going to have equipment in a public space. So like there's a line in our budget to cover that, the admin costs that we were told would be needed for that. And I have no idea how that works going forward. So does it?
Yeah,
it might be other people in a similar situation.
Yes. Which neighbourhood are you?
Manor Park.
Manor Park.
So Adam and Consumer, you could chat to us directly about that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Katie. We've got Anita.
Yeah, okay, hi. I know Dean had mentioned a template for certain things. I'm just wondering if there are any other good practice templates for some of the other things that was on the list from Compost, like the volunteer guide and stuff. I don't know, maybe we should get in touch with Compost about that.
Yeah, if you can get in touch with Compost, I think that would be
best. Just drop us an email. We've got templates for all sorts of things, and we'll happily talk you through them.
Okay, great. And then my other question was actually about Compost question as well. So I know in terms of the funding, you said you could order stuff for us beforehand, and I'm just wondering sort of presuming you might have quite a few people in January asking for you to do stuff. Ours is kind of quite top heavy. We need to order a lot of plants and everything going forward. So sort of, is there any timeline, anything else, how long would it, you know, if we said, oh, please, could you order this like in January, can you order this in the next few days, would that be an issue? That's just to get an idea.
We do a bank run about once a fortnight, so yeah, it would take about that time. And if you were ordering, if you were ordering things from the RHS, say, we'd have to set them up as us as a supplier, and then so it's not instant at all. Sorry, it's fairly quick, but not instant.
So if we've got a different, so if anyone's got a different range of suppliers that they want to order from you, you'd have to set it up, all of them up. Okay. All right, I think, and a more sort of general question is, I know Amelie had said that there's not, you know, there's only so much the comms team can do in terms of advertising stuff. If we do have like workshops and stuff coming up that we want to advertise, is there any, are there any advisable routes that you can give us?
I think on that, to be fully honest, it's going to be complicated to have it on social media from the Newham London account, just because of the amount of, you know, communications that go through that specific account. What you can do though is obviously the community neighbourhood team does support with advertising sessions and projects in their local newsletters, so they can definitely support you with that, obviously touching base with them. Yeah, so that probably is the best way of doing it in that scenario.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Chris, I think you're on mute, so Sheena is next. Sheena?
Yes, hello, good evening, everyone. And thank you for all the support from the Newham People Power Places. It's my first time in the project, and I'm so excited. I got through. Wow, I never expected it. It's joke and it's gone real. So it's a pleasure to be here. So, but from the email I received, I'm a little bit agitated because I can see a lot of information. So it's like, first, I want to start separating it. I saw the first ones that said what to submit before 5 p.m. on 15th, which is 15th is this Friday, isn't it? So I want to know what is it that I must submit on that 15th, and the one that will be submit on, and the next one is it January? And I don't know, because all the things I'm seeing here, am I sure I'm gonna get them ready?
Which neighbourhood are you?
Of course, I think just want to reassure everyone, because I know it's the Christmas period coming up and everything, and we've mentioned a lot of documents. So in terms of the grant agreement, that's really the essential part that within the 2 weeks time for you to sign once you've read it, so you've done that bit in terms of like agreeing to accept the grant, right? So this is the first step. Okay, you gave me that funding, I'm happy to accept it. And then comes the kind of like the additional conditions and the other documents. And if you need time, if you need to look at templates, if you need support, then that can obviously be completed in January as well. Obviously, the sooner you do it, the sooner you can start doing things on the ground. But you know, you can kind of complete that in a follow-up in January as well. So I hope that answers your question. But obviously, if you have any specifics, then yeah.
Please, yeah.
I guess the first thing is say yes, I'll take the grant. Thank you. I think
who will be my? Do we have is it like mentor?
Yeah. So which neighbourhood are you with, China?
It will be CG.
Stratford and.
Okay, so CG will be helping you through the process with all the documentation. Okay.
We've got about 10 minutes left.
Yeah, let's about a minute a question here.
A bit short, yeah.
Okay, I just want to. I have a quick question. So, what about our DBS check? So we need to do a DBS check with our project head, or
It all depends on your project. It just depends whether you'll be working with vulnerable adults or children, or if you're
yeah,
going to be
children.
running workshops. And again, it's very specific to the project on what kind of safeguarding measures you need to put in place, and what kind of checks you need to do. So again, that's something that we're going to advise as part of your grant agreement through your neighbourhood teams as well, and what exactly types of safeguarding checks you're going to need to take or need to do with your project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to hear. Chigo. Hi,
Yes.
Chigo.
Hello. Thank you. Yeah, I think this is a question that you've probably already answered, but it's just good to get the clarification. The letter we received said that the documents should be sent in no later than Friday the 15th. But it appears that we actually have more time.
Yeah, I guess the initial thing is for you to say, yes, we've acknowledged the receipt and we accept the grant. But obviously everything we've been talking about this evening on all the other types of documentation that we're going to need to work through, that can come afterwards, I guess. So the first thing is agreeing to the grant and accepting the grant. I think that's what.
Yeah, it's helpful if we actually get the statement that we should disregard what's on the letter, because that's what's causing the confusion. What's on the letter is the 15th, but what we are hearing now is that we actually have more time.
I think this might depend on your community neighborhood as well, and their capacity and when they're going on leave as well. So if you have received a different deadline, maybe check with your neighborhood team.
Okay, so I should actually check with my neighborhood team whether the 15th still applies to me, rather than go by the 2 weeks, which I'm hearing this evening.
Yeah, just check with your neighborhood team, because I think each neighborhood may have sent it at different dates. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The second question I have very quickly is that the installments of the money, it shows the dates when this should be paid. But presumably, if our project is completed quicker, then we should go by.
They're just a guideline. Yeah, they're just a guideline roughly when a typical quarterly payment would be. So, but project by project will, it will vary. We understand that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Susie.
Greetings, everybody.
Greetings.
Congratulations and thank you so much, Newham Council. My question is this, probably a little bit more strategic. Have you captured any data? Do you have any granularity of who voted, what their profiles were like, who did we reach, who did we not reach as a community? And secondly, and I'm sure everyone else is curious too, I need to see some kind of graph, bar chart somewhere of where we came in the rankings and how many votes we had. I am not going to sleep tonight until you tell me I'm going to get this.
I think so.
So
Okay.
yes.
No, we want you to sleep, Susie. We will be posting the results on Newham Co-Create very soon, but we initially wanted to let you know first. We wanted to let the unsuccessful project leads and you guys know first by letter before we announce it to the world. So our next step is to put up the table on Newham Co-Create for each individual neighborhood. So keep an eye out for that very soon. That will come out. Was there another question for that?
Yeah, because
the
often,
individual.
yeah, I want to understand what if any granular data did you capture, or should you capture in the future? We have an area which encapsulates about 15,000 households. I want to know who we are not reaching.
Yeah,
who didn't vote for us?
That kind of analysis is still to come. For the time being, it took us some time just to get to voting numbers, because there's so many votes. Over 10,000 people voted. So in terms of digging into the stats of that, we've not properly started doing that yet, but we will keep you informed if you're interested once we get that kind of data.
Amazing, thank you.
No problem. Curious by Nature, last question, hand up.
Hi, my name is Ilona. I've got a question. You've mentioned about permissions that we need to obtain. Do the other council departments and services are they aware of the community project, people, public places, and do they have a contact person to get in touch with and work with? I'm mainly interested in parks.
Yeah, so we've been running well over 2 years now, but so each department is getting to know the program and are more and more aware of it now. So it just depends on the type of permissions you need on who we approach. So your neighborhood team will be able to advise who you might need to approach to get your specific permissions, if that is the case for your project. Did you?
I think we have got Max. Maxi, yeah.
I couldn't figure out how to unmute myself. Yeah, great to be here, and thank you for the funding. It's really wonderful. Quick question again is about the data, and yeah, who voted, and whether we'll have access to, I guess, yeah, to follow up with the people who voted for us and to engage them further in our project.
Yeah, again, we'll let you know. I mean, again, we need to sort of obviously be mindful of data sharing and all of that kind of stuff, but we've not really sort of deep dived into that kind of statistics just yet. We want to get the numbers out as soon as possible, so that was our first priority. But yeah, if you're really interested, we'll try and get that sort of data out to you.
So yeah, just to come back on that, so I think with the actual people who voted for your projects, you won't be able to find out, because obviously that is anonymous data in terms of the votes, and that's really important part of the democratic process. But the People Power Places program obviously is keeping people engaged through the Newham Co-Create platform and through the events. So this is the main way for you to kind of continue to engage with residents who would like to be part of your project. So the Newham Co-Create platform, the comments will be continued to be open once we announce the results. So everyone in the community will be able to see your tiles up with the mention that it's been accepted, and then they can comment, and then obviously you can also change your tile if you want to kind of say that you want to recruit volunteers if that's your case. And there will probably be as well a project clinic in the new year in terms of recruiting volunteers as well with our volunteers team in Newham.
Yeah, it's really good point about the tiles. I think that might have been missed over the last few years on people going back and updating the tile. So really important that you update your tile over the next year to keep the people that voted for you informed on how your project is doing. So just keep going in there saying how you're doing, how far along you are, whether you need help with local residents, how to get in contact with you if you need to get in contact with people to contact you, that sort of thing. So yeah, you take full ownership of your individual tiles on Newham Co-Create.
And then also just wanted to come back quickly on the evaluation data. So this will be part of the evaluation that is done of the program, which will come at the end of the program. So just to manage expectations, we won't be kind of like publishing details about that just yet. So probably more towards early 2025 in terms of like what the evaluation of the program overall is and what are the impacts. So yeah, just to kind of also put a bit of context into that when it comes to that specific data. But you will have definitely access to the total votes once it's up on Newham Co-Create, and an opportunity to keep engaging with the local community as well. And I think someone also asked in the chat if the big vote happens every year, sorry. We wished that would be the case because it was great. But this next year will be focused on the project delivery for you, and obviously our teams will be supporting you throughout the process. And then after that, it is probably then the new start of the new cycle, which hopefully will be the case as well. So yeah, so far can't say too much about the next big vote. We'll be focusing on the delivery for now.
Conscious 7:30. Just
yeah. Just to finish as well, that we will be sending a survey as well to people who voted on NEWM Co-Create to find out about how they found the process as well. And this will be part of the evaluation report for next year. Okay, next steps. So we hope you found the information useful today. Again, if you have any other questions or anything specific to your cases as well, just make sure that you get in touch with your community neighborhood team. We've put their details in the chat. You've met them tonight as well. And then a massive good luck with your project. Hopefully you are able to get started very soon in the new year. And we're all really, really excited about all the stuff that you're going to do to change your local area and improve it in NEWM. So thank you very much, everyone. We do have a feedback survey because we take your feedback seriously and we try and improve as much as possible over the years, as some of you might know. So yeah, do fill out our feedback form. It's always really helpful to hear how you felt like that session went as well. So especially because we will be kind of delivering more project clinics in the new year. So if you have any comments, then that will help us design the program for next year as well. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good evening.
Please,
thank you very much.
Can I? Yes, please. Just please. Is there people that are returning suppliers that we can relate to and get more information? Not hoping to go straight to the NEWM personnel. Please, I'm happy to share